Hello and welcome to the Legally Empowered podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Merseyside Junior Lawyers Division in celebration of International Women's Day 2022 and sponsored by MSB Solicitors. My name is Erin Watkinson and I'll be hosting this episode. I'm the Careers and Education representative for Merseyside Junior Lawyers and a Civil Liberties paralegal from Brodie Jackson Cantor. I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, Julie O'Hare from Carpenters. So firstly, Julie, I'd just like to begin if we could just discuss your route into law, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. I think probably everyone out there knows it by now because I've told so many people that there's no one direct route in. I certainly didn't have a long life aspiration to do law. I wanted to do art, so how very different.
Yeah.
And I started doing an art degree. Woke up one morning and thought, this isn't going to pay the bill, so what am I going to do? And I actually did have a cousin who was in law in London, and on one of my many art trips I'd visited him and was sort of blown away by, I suppose, the money, which, is what laws us all to work most days. And I thought, well, that's sensible, isn't it? It's a sensible grown-up career. And I didn't feel very grown-up then. I still don't feel very grown-up now. But what I decided to do was just give it a shot because I thought, well, if all else fails, I'll have a law degree and then I can decide what I want to do when I grow up. So yeah, much to the dismay of my art tutors at the time, I said, look, I'm going to apply for law. Very last minute when UCAS had just come out, so everyone was scrambling anyway. And it was last minute. It was a very last minute application. And I think my art tutor was a bit smug because he said I'm not signing it, thinking I would miss the deadline. And I managed to get somebody else to do it for me. And then I never really started to look back until I'd finished my law degree. And then I thought, do I still want to do this? I'm not quite sure. Because I think you need the experience first before you decide what you want to do. So I left uni and I didn't do my LPC straight away. I actually went to work for a financial institution to train as a manager, a bank manager.
Oh, right.
And after a year of that, I sound very flighty, don't I? I'm not normally, I promise. After a year of that, I think I got a bit of the green-eyed monster because all of my friends from uni were on their LPC and looking at training contracts, and I was like, oh no, I think I've made the wrong decision here. So applied again, very last minute for my LPC, got on that, and then just worked non-stop to get work experience in any field of law I possibly could. So I've done the weird and wonderful, I've done criminal defence before now, employment, family, general mix of everything, slight touch of conveyancing, but I would not be proficient in conveyancing, and I don't envy the conveyances in the last few years in particular. But yeah, I then got a training contract with Waitmans. And at the time I was doing some ad hoc work for a criminal firm for a lovely guy called Pat McLaughlin. And I think he really did inspire me to go on and do the very best that I could because he was just such a lovely man. And working for him, I felt like I was working for family. So that was a very difficult discussion that I had to say to him, look, I've got a training contract, Pat. And he asked me where it was and I took my letter and everything with all the details about it into the office with me. And he just said, I'm not going to be able to match it, am I? And I said, no, I don't think you will. And he said, well, please, let's just see what we can do. But at that point, I just thought, as much as I love working with Pat, I would have been staying there just to work with him and his team and not to pursue something that I was particularly wanting to do. So I joined Waitmans and I trained there. Then I went on for a brief stint at DWF and I've been at Carpenters ever since, so I think I'm part of the furniture there now.
Oh, great.
Whether or not everyone loves that, I'm not sure.
So you've just touched on you're a solicitor at Carpenters. So what department are you in and what's like a typical day like for you?
So I am what's known as the dark side over in Carpenters because Carpenters up to now have been predominantly a claimant personal injury firm. But I'm defence through and through, obviously with my training background. And I worked obviously at DWF, which was a defendant company as well. So when I started at Carpenters 10 years ago, there wasn't a defence team. It was just little old me sat in the corner with a lot of files piled around my desk. And we just grew since then. So now I do defendant personal injury. So Still going strong. And it's been a hard few years with all the reforms, but I'm pleased to say that our firm has weathered through that through really good planning. So
great. So as you touched upon earlier, you've worked in a few different areas. Is there any advice that you like to have received at the start of your career?
I think at the start of my career, I would have liked to have received the advice that I do give most junior lawyers that I come across now, which is don't be closed-minded about anything. It's your career is a very, very long period of your life, and you've got to do it if you're happy doing it. Otherwise, it's a miserable existence. So when I came into it, I was really quite worried that I seemed a bit flighty, that I hadn't made up my mind about what area I wanted to do. And I thought that at that point I should have known, especially during the training contract when everyone was quite clear and set on what they wanted to do. And I really wanted to do employment, and I did pester the partner at Waitman's to let me stay on, but sadly there were no positions. But in a way, things happen for a reason. I think if you just knuckle down wherever you are, you'll get a really good feel for it. And don't be scared to move on. I know 10 years in Carpenters, that sounds like a bit hypocritical, but, I'm happy there, which is why I've stayed. But I think if I wanted to pursue something else, I wouldn't be scared to do that. Your life and your career are what you make of it, really.
Definitely, yeah. So sort of in light of International Women's Day, what do you think the biggest challenge is to sort of like gender equality in the legal sector?
I think it's stereotyping, really.
Yeah.
Because I think that's always hard, isn't it? People have got unconscious bias, and trying to get them to recognise that is really difficult. But I have to say, in my career lifespan, I've noticed big changes, which has been, incredible. But yeah, there is still the stereotypical role of, what suits one gender may not suit another. And that goes from your position in your team, your position in your firm, and actually the type of legal work that you do as well. So in the past, more corporate-based work has been seen to be, more suitable to the gentleman because they don't have the family concerns that maybe the ladies have, which I think now is a bit nonsensical anyway, But there are still barriers. I mean, it's sad, really, isn't it? We've all got different qualities to bring.
Definitely.
And your sex shouldn't really come into it.
Exactly, 100%. So sort of just following on from what you've just said there, in light of the pandemic, what do you think employers can do better to support women at work? Obviously, we've seen an increase in sort of like agile working and hybrid working. Do you think that sort of supports women in work, or...?
I think so, yeah, and not just women, but it's given men the opportunity to spend more time at home with their families as well, that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. I think agile working is incredible, and it doesn't suit everyone. Nothing in life is going to be a one size fits all, but I'll be perfectly honest, that is a massive, massive barrier breakdown, isn't it? Because people now with agile can still do your school runs of a morning, whether you're male or female, and you're not sort of seen as then coming into the office late because your presence isn't physically known. And as long as you're putting in the time and the effort and you're available for your colleagues and clients when you need to be, then I think that's all that really counts.
Definitely, yeah. So it's sort of nice to welcome you back in what sense, because you was on Merseyside Junior Lawyers Division quite a few years ago yourself. So what do you think the skills that you developed from when you was on the committee, how do you think they sort of assisted you in your career going forward, and then obviously with your role with Liverpool Law Society as well?
Well, it was a very long time ago. I was kidding. It's far too long ago now. But I think my time on that committee, because I was there for a number of years. I did the social aspect first, which probably suited me more than anything because I do like to organise a good event. But yeah, it was all about the networking, I think, because before then, particularly with the sort of academic background that I had doing art, you can be sometimes a bit of a loner. You're socialising as going to the pub when it opened, and I did an art degree, but yeah, it's very much a case of being able to speak to your peers, not just in your own firm, but across the city, really. And that for me was really important, because you never know who you're going to come across again at some point later on down the line in your career. So the networking was a big thing for me. And then obviously leadership skills, because I then went on to chair the JLD, the MJLD, which was something that I never thought I'd be able to do. I never thought I had it in me. I just like people. I don't know if you can gather, but I like talking. And so I think that just sort of lent itself then to, well, okay, I'll move away from the social aspect in terms of the organising of events to just organising things in general. And I did that for 2 years, which just flew by, but I absolutely loved every moment of it. And it wasn't even myself that decided to sign up, I'll be perfectly honest. And obviously things are very, very different now. But at the time, like the trainee solicitors group and the young solicitors group, as it formerly was in Merseyside anyway, because it's still the same in Manchester, I didn't know anything about them. And I'd come from university, my LPC, not knowing anything about them. Started at Waitman's, not really heard much about it. But I was working under a partner, Charlie Jones, in the motor team at Waitman's, and he was heavily involved with the Liverpool Law Society at the time. And he just happened to say one day, right, come along to this meeting with me. And I said, oh, well, what is it? And he said, just come along. So I was like, okay. And it was one of the Law Society meetings. So I sat there around a big board table full of people who were very senior in their own firms. And I just thought, what am I doing here? You know, when we came out, he said, did you enjoy that? And as a nosy person, and getting to hear what was happening in Merseyside before it was even put in place, I did enjoy it. And I said to him, yeah, I did. And he said, well, I think you need to do something about that. So let's look at, the junior division group. So I said, oh, okay then. And it was really new then. I think there's only been 1 year before I joined the committee. So I've got him to thank for it all, really, for dragging me along that one lunchtime to a Law Society meeting. And I've not looked back, obviously. So you'll know yourself in terms of the committees. We do now try and work quite closely. And that was something I was really, really keen on when I was chair, because ultimately in a few years' time, you're no longer going to be junior lawyers, although you'll still feel like it inside, because I still do. But you've got to take a seat at the grown-up table, so to speak. And so I really tried to take everything I could from those Law Society meetings that I went to as a MJLD rep. And then when the time came that I was stepping down from the MJLD, then I got a lovely phone call from Steve Cornforth to say, look, we'd really like to invite you onto the general committee. We think, we should put a nomination in. So a number of people put in nominations, and then I took up the role there of their social secretary for a good while. And that was a lot of fun. So there's a little bit more money to play with than JLD when you were organising events. But I probably drove the staff stir crazy there, and have been ever since. So we're 12 years in now, and I'm still driving them mad. But
yeah, so last year you was the president, haven't you, of Liverpool Law Society. So how did you find that?
Do you know what? I loved it. And it was something that I never thought that I was ready for. And I'd been approached in previous years about it. But as I say, inside, I'm still only 19, 20. So I was thinking, why? I'm not grown up enough. Why are they asking me to do this? It's such an important role. Having seen, all of the past presidents gone by and what they brought to the table, I thought, I've got nothing to bring here. And then, I'd seen the likes of Alison Lobb, Glenys Hunt, and Nina, obviously, was not long before me, go through the ranks, and they just did it with such grace and style, seemed to cope with everything else. And I thought, maybe I can do it if they've got the confidence in me. And then when Chris Toffin took over from Nina, he approached me and said, I think this is something that, you would be interested in. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure, Chris. I'm still only, 18. Trying to kid myself. And so, I saw the way he was handling his VP year when Nina was president, and I just thought maybe this is something that I can do. I'll give it a go. What harm's it going to do? If they don't like me, they'll kick me off the committee, and that'll be that, I'll just put my tail between my legs and walk away. But I loved it. I loved every minute. And I've got to say, when you're in that role, it's not a role for just a sole person. It's very much a team effort. So all of the staff and all of the officers on the committees, they really do rally together. And it was a very strange 2 years for me, wasn't it? Let's face it. It had to be my luck to get caught in the middle of a pandemic. So there was a lot of meetings that ordinarily you'd be able to say, it clashes, I can't make it across town.
but on Zoom instead.
Everything's Zoom. It's hard to say no. And obviously there were meetings about the pandemic and how we were all adapting. But I think actually it brought a lot of the firms, a lot of the members closer together. We had forums for senior management, which, in the past we would have a managers meeting once a year in September where we'd all get in a room and sit around, tables, smaller tables. But at least this gave people the opportunity to join a forum, have their say. It was very open and honest discussions. And I think that really did help because people realised that everyone was going through the same challenges that they were. So yeah, it was a very interesting 2 years. Not as much socialising as I would have liked. I did miss a lot of dinners, but it's probably done. Well, let's face it, my waistline can't really get any bigger at the moment. So it probably did that a favour because a lot of past presidents had said, be careful, don't eat the bread at dinners. That was their advice they gave me because there's a lot of dinners to go to and you will notice it. So I did. The few dinners I went to, I was like, I'm not eating the bread. But yeah, it was great. It's a really good opportunity. And I know I've said it before, but I felt really, really privileged and honoured to do it.
Who was it, Chris Toppin, the year before you then? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And he was a great president, very different. I know that you'll know Chris with working with him. And I think that's one good thing as well about the society. And also very much like the MJLD committees, that you get very different personalities. So not every chair or not every president is the same, and that's what helps the societies and your organisation move on and sort of thrive because it has to change. The nature of our profession changes, doesn't it? So
amazing. So what would you say is the highlight of your legal career so far then?
I would have to say, the presidency, most definitely. I love what I do at Carpenters, and I was really, really fortunate that they were so accommodating, really, especially because it was 2 years and not one is the norm. Because I manage two great teams at Carpenters, and that's, as I've said, that's why I love working there. For me, it's very much the people. But yeah, doing that, I think that was the highlight. Getting my granddad to the annual dinner has got to be the highlight of my career so far.
That was lovely seeing him there. So sort of following on from the fact that you wanted to go to art school and not go into law, did you have any legal mentors, or is there anyone that sort of inspired you in the legal profession?
I would say early doors it had to be Pat McLaughlin and his little team that he had. He just always seemed so calm and levelled and sensible. And I suppose that's what I always try and aspire to be, because I'm not like that at all normally. I have to really focus to be sensible and calm. But no, I think he inspired me because I just saw the way he interacted with people, and he had such compassion, especially doing the sort of work that he did, that it made me think, I want to do this. And that's why I want to go and now, do me LPC, do me training contract. And then since then, I've had some really good role models. Alison Lobb, I think, is one of the key figures for me because I've known her for so long now as well. So I've watched her progress through the last 12 years of her career, which is inspiring. She's an excellent role model. And I feel very honoured to call her a friend as well, although I don't see her as much as we perhaps would like. But she's incredible, and she's really driving her firm Moorcrofts in a fantastic direction.
Yeah, she is. She's amazing. So sort of just to conclude, is what 3 tips would you give to sort of any female inspiring lawyers?
Okay, well, the first one is to have a bit of confidence in yourself, because I know that's something that a lot of us find difficult, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I'm no different. The way I feel confident is I like to know what I'm talking about. Obviously, this is quite easy. I'm just talking about myself. But you know, you need to have that conviction in yourself, really, so that you can say, you know, I can do this. And if I don't think I can do it now, I'll just build my way up to being able to do it. Lean on people, you know. In this profession, I think a lot of outsiders see us all as a bit stern and not very not very amenable, or friendly. But actually, my experience is it couldn't be further from the truth. There's very few people in my career that I've come across that haven't been willing to help people along. So, you know, if you need help or you want a bit of direction, ask for it. So, yes, have confidence, ask for help. And I think the third one is don't be scared of just adapting yourself. Because I know that in particular, you know, we were saying some stereotypical roles are, you know, females will do this and males will do that. We've broken some of those barriers now, and the only way that we're really going to truly break them is if the next lot of females coming into the profession do more to break them, you know, be vocal. Sometimes I'm a little bit too vocal. Maybe don't be as vocal as me, but no, be vocal. You know, you're there to be heard. If you've got the training and the academics behind you, you've got the experience behind you, then you're no different to the next person who's coming along, whether they be male or female. So just, you know, go for it, really.
Oh, excellent advice. Thanks, Julie.
Oh, thank
Thanks
you
so much for today.